Everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a 5-game Major League Baseball slate. This slate is pretty interesting. We do have a game in Colorado today with the Dodgers, so that should be interesting. Before I get started, though, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? Also, make sure to check out the links in the description for Discord. There's some cool people in here. We hang out and talk sports and fantasy and stuff like that. And then also check out the membership section on YouTube, as you can get the daily write-ups that I normally put on Patreon, but I'm now switching over to YouTube, so come check that out if you're interested in that. We have different options there. So with that said, though, let's get into the slate. My core plays today are Freddie Freeman, Alex Bregman, and Francisco Lindor, and I will get to those guys as I get into the metrics here. Let's go ahead and get in our pitchers, though. So my top overall pitcher is Max Scherzer for the Mets. Now, in 6 of the last 8 games, he's been over 20 fantasy points, including 3 30 fantasy point games. There are some bats in Milwaukee that look okay, though, but head-to-head, he does look like he's got a pretty good opportunity here to have a good game, and his K rate has been rising recently, which is definitely helping him get wins and stuff like that. So I think he's a great option. Another option is Taijuan Walker for Philly. Now, he hasn't been quite as good, but the last 4 games, he's been extremely good. He's only given up 2 earned runs in those games, and that gives him some really good utility here, despite the fact that he started the season with his first 12 games where only had 1 game over 20 fantasy points. He's had 4 straight wins. I like his potential here, and he has some good strikeout rate in the stretch, and as long as he's pitching like this, he's going to be a tough guy to hit. There are a couple bats on the Chicago Cubs that could get to him, like Ian Happ, but overall, I think that he's a relatively good play on a slate with not many good plays at all. He can be a P1 option or a P2 option today. I have 2 alternate P2 options, one being JP France for Houston, as he has some good metrics here, though he is in a risky situation against St. Louis. I do like some of the St. Louis bats, but he does have some upside. I really did want to like him today. I don't love him by any stretch, but he is an okay P2 option, simply because there's not many available. Emmett Shaheen for the Dodgers is also in play, as he's had 2 straight 18 fantasy point games to start the season in his first 2 starts, including a win in the second game against Houston, and he didn't face any bad teams. Now, he's facing Colorado, though the only downside that he really has is he's giving up a lot of fly ball outs and not getting enough strikeouts, really. But if he can limit the home runs in this one, he could have a really spectacular day. But he is somewhat risky. That's why he's a P2 alternative. But he is very contrarian and very risky, high risk, high reward type of situation. And then finally, if you just want to throw caution to the wind, you could put in a Keaton Winn for the Giants, who is facing Toronto, which is not appealing, but he's not likely to go too many innings, and he could turn out and end up having only giving up a couple earned runs. He's also super cheap, so he does have 15 to 20 fantasy point upside, and at this dirt cheap price, you can put out all the bats that you want, which would definitely be a contrarian way to go about it, though that's extremely high risk, high reward. I mean, that is Hail Mary to the max on the slate. You definitely want to avoid Hauser, Wainwright, and Anderson today, as they all have terrible situations. Chris Bassett is in play as a Hail Mary approach for a P1 option, but he's been really bad lately, but he does have a high upside. He's just been bad, and I do like some San Francisco bats today. Maybe in our catchers, we're going to start with Will Smith for the Dodgers. He's been the best hitter and has the best WOBA against pitching today on the slate. He draws good metrics, though he is very expensive, somewhat hard to roster as a result. JT Realmuto is a decent contrarian option and a good matchup. I do like his home run potential as well. And then Yannier Diaz for Houston. He's a very cheap play, and he draws really good metrics here. He's hitting the ball extremely well lately. I like his upside and home run potential, and he's a great value play on the slate. Maybe in the first base, we'll look at Freddie Freeman first, who is a core play. Obviously, he's super expensive, but he's got home run potential here. He's hitting the ball well. I like his upside and potential in these Colorado games. Lamont Wade Jr. is a good value play here. He's cheap play with top metrics and a home run threat. I do like some San Francisco bats today, and he's definitely my favorite one. Then we'll look at Vlad Jr. For Toronto, who's finally hitting the ball better. He was in a slump for a while, but he's hitting the ball now well, and he's got nice home run potential here with nice upside, though he's fairly expensive. And then a Hail Mary play is Jose Abreu, who's just very cheap, but he's been hitting the ball really well lately, and he's a home run play on this particular slate. Moving to second base, Mookie Betts is our top option here. Though if I had to pick between paying up for Freddie Freeman or Betts, I would pay up for Freeman today. Though Betts does have big time potential, it doesn't have the metrics that Freeman has on this particular slate. Looking at Jose Altuve, he looks like a really good play. He's had 2 straight 20 fantasy point games, and he's got nice home run potential here. I like his upside. And then for a cheap option, Jeff McNeil for the Mets, kind of a borderline Hail Mary play. He's not really a huge home run threat, but he does have some upside with good metrics, and I like his fantasy point up potential, though he has been slumpy recently. Maybe in a third baseman, we'll start with Alex Bregman, who I think is a core play today, as he's just got great metrics here. He's averaging 12 fantasy points per game over the last 10, and he's got great WOBA. I really like his upside. And then Ryan McMahon is a contrarian option for Colorado. He's been kind of slumpy lately, but he has potential for a home run here, and that definitely gives him some upside, especially since he has a little bit more home run upside than Bregman does on this particular slate. Maybe in the shortstop, Trey Turner is my top overall option, though he is not got the best matchup. He also has some up and downs throughout the season, but he's in a decent spot here. Francisco Lindor is a core play for me. He is just underpriced for this position with his batting average recently in the last 10 games, and also averaging 13 fantasy points per game, and he's underpriced, and he's got nice home run upside. He draws great metrics for this game. Bill Bichette is also in play with a lot of home run potential. He really has the best home run upside at this position, and he draws great metrics here. I think he's probably my home run call of the day. Ezekiel Tovar is a good value play here if you want to pay down here. He's hit the ball pretty well, though he is in a little bit of a risky situation, but he's a cheap option at this position. Maybe the outfielders, Mookie Betts, Kyle Tucker, JD Martinez, Bryce Harper, and Kyle Schwarber are all $4,900 or more expensive and have really good upside here. Obviously fairly expensive and somewhat hard to roster depending on how you go with pitchers. Then we'll look at some value plays here. Brandon Nimmo being the top one. He draws good metrics here. He's hitting the ball really well, and he has some very limited home run upside, but he does hit them occasionally, and he definitely draws a good matchup here. Peralta for the Dodgers has hit the ball pretty well recently. He's not a great hitter, but he's a decent hitter, and he has some home run potential in this matchup. He's really hitting the ball well as of late, too. Nick Castellanos is also a guy that I have really good upside for, with a lot of home run upside in this one. He draws great metrics for this game, and I like his potential. Then we'll look at Castellanos. Jock Peterson for San Francisco, who I really do like today, though he's been slumpy lately with the batting average. He draws good metrics for this game. Jordan Walker is a good value play for St. Louis and a good matchup here. He's hitting the ball pretty well. He hasn't really had the home runs that I've expected, but he's hitting the ball solidly. He's just striking out too much, but he has home run potential in this one. Ian Happ is kind of a contrarian option today, as he's a little bit expensive for what I really think he'll do today, but he does draw some home run potential against Walker. He's probably the one hitter for St. Louis I like decently. For the Cubs, I like decently. James Outman is kind of a borderline Hail Mary play, as he hasn't hit the ball well lately, but he's been good on the season, and he has home run potential. And then Brandon Belt, who has hit the ball extremely well lately. He's got good potential here for a good game, and he has some low-end home run upside, and he's dirt cheap, which really helps you with your lineups today. So that's what I have for DraftKings. Let's go ahead and move over to FanDuel. We're going to look at FanDuel here. And we're going to start with our pitchers. Our P1 option is Max Scherzer. I think he's the top overall option. I think he's almost a must-play at pitcher, as he's cheap enough over here that he's going to pay off likely. An alternative to him is Emmett Shaheen, but he's in a high-risk situation. He's a little bit cheaper than Scherzer, so he helps you pay down. And a Hail Mary attempt is a win for San Francisco, which high risk, high reward. I mean, just absolute high risk, high reward. If you want to pay up with all the other positions, you can use him. But honestly, you can make a really solid lineup with Scherzer or Shaheen without going down to win. But he could be a Hail Mary contrarian play if he manages to score 15 to 20 fantasy points. 20 to 25 fantasy points here on FanDuel. Moving our catchers, Freddie Freeman and Will Smith are top overall options, but Bryce Harper also has first base opportunity, and so I think he's a great play on the slate at this position because he is so cheap. over here on FanDuel. Moving at second base, Mookie Betts definitely draws good metrics here. But Jose Altuve and Ryan McMahon are both cheap and viable on the slate at second base and helps you pay up for other positions. Third base is also, you could put Ryan McMahon, or you could go with Alex Bregman, who does feel a little bit risky today, but he's underpriced here on FanDuel, so that gives him a lot of upside. Maybe the shortstops, Mookie Betts is obviously available here as well. Trey Turner is also available. Francisco Lindor, he looks really solid, and Bo Bichette does as well. I like both these guys for their potential today the most. The other two guys, if you can afford to pay up, have a lot of potential. Moving the outfielders, Mookie Betts, Kyle Tucker, JD Martinez, Bryce Harper, and Kyle Schwarber are all top-tier options, as they have really good metrics, and Kyle Tucker is a little bit underpriced here on FanDuel, so that gives him a lot of upside. James Outman, David Peralta, and Brandon Nimmo all have good metrics here and good matchups. Nick Castellanos, I think, has got a lot of home run upside. Jock Peterson does too. Ian Happ is kind of a Hail Mary play, as is Jeff McNeil. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.